A $200 billion industry has executed the most sophisticated purge of knowledge in human history. They have effectively erased 12 core agricultural methods from the public consciousness. I found them not in modern textbooks funded by corporate grants, but buried deep within the original USDA wartime manuals from 1943. These are documents interred in government archives that no one dares to discuss anymore. At that time, over 20 million families utilized these exact protocols to generate 40% of the nation's fresh produce. We are talking about 10 billion pounds of food brought into existence without a single grain of synthetic fertilizer, without a single patented GMO seed, and entirely without the intervention of corporations. It was a synergy of the earth and 12 techniques so potent that the fertilizer industry had to make you forget them just to ensure their own survival. I am going to exhume all 12 of these methods for you. Every single one is backed by prestigious researchers and rigorous, peer-reviewed science. Some of these methods have proven the ability to reverse 60 years of chemical devastation in a mere 6-year window, using nothing more than a handful of matter from the deep woods. Others fix hundreds of pounds of free nitrogen per acre at zero cost. Furthermore, a landmark study from Cornell University confirmed that one of these lost systems produces more calories per unit of land than any modern high-intensity farming operation. Zero synthetic inputs, less water, more abundance. And I will be transparent with you about what is a genuine miracle and what is being overhyped by the internet, because among these 12 secrets lie truths so controversial that most media outlets will recoil from them. But at The Forgotten Archive, we aren't selling this knowledge. No corporation harvests a profit when you possess it. That is precisely why it was buried. The soil has a memory, and now, so will you. December 1941. Pearl Harbor trembled. Within 1 week, Secretary of Agriculture Claude Wickard launched the Victory Garden campaign. The government printed millions of instructional pamphlets. National radio networks like NBC broadcasted gardening protocols across the territory. The USDA mobilized its elite scientific minds and nutritionists to teach families how to manufacture food from backyards, vacant lots, or even rooftops anywhere touched by light and soil. By 1943, the results shattered even the most pessimistic projections. 20 million gardens spanned 7 million acres. President Roosevelt himself confirmed the reality. 42% of all fresh vegetables consumed in the United States originated from these self-managed plots. A Gallup poll revealed that 54% of families cultivated not merely out of patriotism, but for financial survival and autonomy. This was not a fleeting hobby. This was a nation feeding itself. The USDA manuals of that era recommended composting, crop rotation, companion planting, seed saving, and natural pest management. These were not regarded as alternative or organic, as we label them today. They were the official policy of the United States government during the greatest crisis of the age. When the war ended, a different kind of catastrophe quietly began. During the war, the government had constructed 10 massive ammonia plants to produce ammonium nitrate, the core component of high explosives. The Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, alone supplied tens of thousands of tons of anhydrous ammonia and ammonium nitrate crystals for munitions. But in 1946, as the guns fell silent, these factories lost their targets. The plant owners faced a staggering surplus and required a new consumer base. The USDA began suggesting the dispersal of this excess chemical onto farmland. The TVA launched a demonstration program, providing free synthetic fertilizer to 90,000 farms. Within the first 15 years, fertilizer sales in the TVA region grew at triple the national rate. A $41 million government investment was transformed into $57 billion in revenue for the chemical industry. Today, over 75% of the world's fertilizer products trace their lineage directly to that converted weapons facility in Alabama, U.S. Fertilizer consumption skyrocketed from 2 million tons in the late 1940s to 24 million tons by 1981, a 12-fold increase in a single generation. The global fertilizer market now stands at $200 billion annually, controlled by just 4 gargantuan corporations. Between 2020 and 2022, These entities recorded profit increases of up to 1,500%, while production costs rose by less than 50%. Your grocery bill climbed so their stock prices could reach the summit. And the environmental toll is irreversible. The dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico, a consequence of fertilizer runoff from 31 states, have expanded to 6,700 square miles. There are now over 400 such dead zones globally. Only 35% of synthetic nitrogen is actually absorbed by the crops. The rest becomes a toxin ravaging our rivers and aquifers. Meanwhile, municipalities began legislating against front yard vegetable gardens, deeming them unsightly. Pristine but useless lawns replaced plots of food. The 12 methods that fed America in its darkest hour were systematically purged from the conversation, not because they ceased to work, but because they ceased to be profitable for those in power. Hack number 1. The in situ cycle. Chop and drop. Modern industrial agriculture has conditioned you to clean your land. It teaches you to haul away organic debris, bag your leaves, and clear the stage for the next round of purchased inputs. This is a brilliant economic loop for corporations, but a death sentence for your soil's biology. The 1,943 archives reveal a different truth. The most successful victory gardens followed a protocol now known as chop and drop. Your ancestors didn't possess compost tumblers. They possessed common sense. When a plant reached the end of its life cycle, they severed it at the base and allowed it to collapse exactly where it grew. Observe the forest floor. Nature never hauls away its trash. The fungi, the bacteria, and the microscopic universe beneath your feet evolved over millions of years to process exactly what falls upon them. When you remove plant material, you break the circuit. When you leave it, you complete it. The data is undeniable. A foundational 1,954 study from Kansas found that an organic mulch layer just half an inch thick reduced soil evaporation by 41%. 3 inches of this waste reduced it by 67%. In Nigeria, field trials showed that mulched soil lost 0 tons of topsoil per year, while bare soil lost 230 tons under the same rain. This isn't innovation, it is the restoration of the original cycle. Every time you bag yard waste, you are throwing away the very currency your soil needs to survive. Hack number 2. The forest inoculation. Microbial transplantation. If your garden soil is compacted, gray, and lifeless, the industry will sell you expensive bottled microbes. But your ancestors knew a secret that costs nothing. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more microbes than there are stars in the known universe, up to 1 trillion organisms. If your soil lacks this, it isn't soil. It is merely geological dust. In 1943, wartime manuals recommended a specific, forgotten practice. Obtain soil from a healthy woodland area and incorporate it into your beds. In 2016, a landmark study published in Nature Plants confirmed this primitive wisdom. Researchers spread a thin layer of soil less than 1 centimeter from pristine land onto degraded farmland that had been chemically ravaged for 60 years. Within just 6 years, the transplanted microbes didn't just survive, they steered the entire ecosystem back to health. They rebuilt fungal networks and brought back life that had been absent for decades. The reason this is never discussed? Because no corporation can patent a handful of forest dirt. By taking a small amount of soil from under mature, undisturbed trees and mixing it into your garden, you are transplanting 1 million years of evolutionary intelligence. These organisms reproduce exponentially. A handful becomes a universe within weeks. Hack number 3. The mycorrhizal handshake, the symbiotic bridge. This is perhaps the most significant erasure in agricultural history. 80% of all land plants form a partnership with underground fungi called mycorrhizae. These fungi attach to the roots, extending the plant's reach by hundreds of times. A 2024 meta-analysis of 187 studies found that these fungal networks increase phosphorus uptake by 105% and nitrogen uptake by 67%. Globally, these networks sequester 5 billion tons of carbon per year, an amount equivalent to the total annual emissions of the European Union and Russia combined. The fertilizer industry hates this handshake. Why? Because high phosphorus synthetic fertilizers actually suppress mycorrhizal colonization When the plant gets cheap, chemical food from a bag, it stops investing in its fungal allies. It's like replacing a thriving local economy with a vending machine convenient in the short term, but devastating for long-term resilience. To rebuild this network, you must follow the rules of the archive. Minimize tillage, as plowing shreds the fungal threads that took months to grow. Keep living roots in the ground year-round, and stop the chemical vending machine. The network has been waiting under your feet for 80 years. It is ready to reconnect the moment you stop destroying the bridge. Hack number 4. The Mound Protocol. No-till sovereignty. There is a reason the plow became the symbol of modern farming, and it wasn't to help the soil. It was to prepare the land for monocultures that require constant intervention. History books often overlook a fundamental truth. The most resilient civilizations, such as the Haudenosaunee, never used plows. They utilized mound planting. By mounding the earth and planting directly into it without inversion, they preserved the soil's delicate architecture. Science now validates this primitive method as superior. Tilling is an act of biological violence. It shreds the fungal networks we discussed in Hack Hash 3, exposes sequestered carbon to oxygen, releasing it as $CO, $2, and destroys the aggregates that hold water like a sponge. The data is staggering. Iowa's topsoil was once 16 inches deep. Today, after 160 years of the plow, half of it is gone. We are losing soil at 25 times the rate it forms. A University of Massachusetts study found that 30 million acres of the Corn Belt have completely lost their carbon-rich top layer. Mound planting reverses this trend. It allows the soil to warm faster in the spring and ensures that the microscopic highways created by earthworms and fungi remain intact. Every pass of a rototiller is a setback. Every mound is a fortress of fertility. Hack number 5. The Companion Shield. Biological warfare. During World War II, chemical pesticides were redirected to the front lines. In their absence, victory gardeners turned to tactical interplanting. This wasn't for aesthetics, it was for warfare. Wartime manuals specifically mandated the planting of marigolds, not as flowers, but as chemical barriers. Marigolds exude alpha-terphenol from their roots, a compound that is toxic to root-destroying nematodes. Above ground, they act as beacons for hoverflies and parasitic wasps that prey on aphids. A 2024 study from Oaxaca, Mexico, revealed the complexity of this shield. When corn is attacked by pests, it releases volatile organic compounds, essentially chemical screams. Neighboring bean plants hear these screams and begin producing extrafloral nectar to attract predatory wasps. These wasps, fueled by the nectar, live twice as long and kill significantly more pests. The pesticide industry, which generates $14 billion annually in fungicide sales alone, cannot profit from plants that defend each other. Every companion plant you add is a spray bottle you don't have to buy. Hack number 6. The Three Sisters Guild. The ultimate polyculture. The Haudenosaunee called them the Three Sisters: corn, beans, and squash. To the untrained eye, it looks like a chaotic mess. To the scientist, it is the most sophisticated agricultural engine ever designed. In this system, no one survives alone. The corn provides the vertical scaffolding. The beans climb the corn and, through a handshake with rhizobium bacteria, pull nitrogen from the air to fertilize the soil. The squash spreads its massive leaves, acting as a living mulch to suppress weeds and retain moisture. Dr. Jane Mount Pleasant of Cornell University conducted the definitive research. Three Sisters plots produce over 12 million kilocalories per hectare, surpassing any modern monoculture. Iowa State University found these plots produce up to 53% more food per unit of land than the same crops grown separately. They also measured a 54% reduction in nitrate loss. The industrial system demands rows and isolation because isolation creates a need for external inputs. The guild creates a closed loop where the crops provide for one another. Hack number 7. The Liquid Life Protocol. Compost tea. The honest truth. In the archive, we value truth over marketing. This hack is perhaps the most debated in modern gardening circles, and most channels won't give you the full picture. Compost tea is essentially the process of steeping liquid biology brewing finished compost in oxygenated water to multiply its microbial load. The theory is that these microbes coat the foliage, outcompeting pathogens and jump-starting the soil's immune system. A 2-year trial by the Rodale Institute in Penn State found measurable increases in crop yield and quality. Dr. Harry Hoytink at Ohio State discovered that these applications can trigger induced systemic resistance, effectively vaccinating the plant against disease. However, here is the honesty the archive demands. Results can be inconsistent. A Washington State University study found that in certain cultivars, compost tea performed no better than plain water. Furthermore, the USDA warned that adding molasses to the brew can cause dangerous pathogens like E. coli to multiply by a factor of 10,000. The archive's recommendation? Use only fully matured, high-quality compost. Skip the sugar additives. Apply it within hours of brewing. Or better yet, top dress with solid compost and let the rain brew the tea for you. True sovereignty isn't just about using old methods. It's about knowing which ones are grounded in reality. Hack number 8. The winter guard cover crop. Living mulch. There is a cardinal rule your ancestors knew that modern agriculture chooses to ignore. Bare soil is dying soil. When soil is left exposed to the elements, it hemorrhages moisture, structure, and life. Nature never leaves the earth naked, and neither should you. After the fall harvest, the victory gardeners sowed the winter guard, crimson clover, winter rye, and hairy vetch. These aren't crops you eat, they are crops that protect. Hairy vetch is a biological marvel, fixing between 80 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre for free by pulling it directly from the atmosphere. Crimson clover adds another 50 to 125 pounds. In 2022, only 4.7% of U.S. cropland used cover crops. The other 95% sat bare, bleeding nutrients into the rivers. During the 2012 drought, farmers using cover crops saw corn yields 10% higher than those without. These plants work while you sleep, manufacturing fertility and anchoring the soil against erosion. The moment you grow your own nitrogen, you stop being a customer for the chemical giants. Hack number 9. The nitrogen bank. Green manure. If hack number 8 is about protection, hack hash 9 is about investment. Before the war, USDA extension guides referred to green manure as the farmer's savings account. The process involves growing a lush stand of legumes and, instead of harvesting the fruit, tilling them back into the soil or using the chop and drop method at peak bloom. Every cell of that plant material becomes a feast for the soil's microscopic universe. A $3 packet of clover seeds can produce the same fertility as a $60 bag of synthetic nitrogen. But there is a fundamental difference. The bag of chemicals is an expense that depletes the soil over time, while green manure is an investment that compounds. One feeds the plant directly, bypassing the biology and creating a drug-like dependence. The other feeds the biology, which in turn feeds the plant through a relationship that has been perfected over 400 million years. The archive teaches us that we do not feed the plant, we feed the soil, and the soil feeds the world. Hack number 10. The epigenetic code. Seed saving. When you purchase seeds from a catalog, you are buying genetics optimized for a laboratory or a distant industrial farm. But when you save seeds from your own land, you are participating in epigenetic adaptation. A 2018 study at the Earlham Institute revealed that plants aren't just static sets of DNA. They literally reprogram their gene expression based on the specific stresses of their environment, and they pass that memory to their offspring. Your ancestors didn't call it science, they called it survival. By selecting seeds from your most resilient plants, you are creating a localized archive that remembers your droughts, your pests, and your soil. Today, just 4 corporations control 56% of the global seed market. In 2013, the Supreme Court ruled that farmers could be sued for millions for simply replanting patented seeds. 90% of our vegetable genetic diversity has vanished in a century, but the resistance is in the jar. A seed is a promise that wherever you land, you can begin again. The corporations see inventory. The archive sees independence. Hack number 11. The living mattress sheet. Composting. Modern gardening makes composting seem like an arduous chore, turning heavy piles for months. Your grandmother used a more elegant solution, sheet composting, Or lasagna gardening. Instead of hauling materials to a bin, you build the soil exactly where you intend to plant. By layering cardboard to suppress weeds, followed by alternating green nitrogen layers, kitchen scraps, and brown carbon layers, leaves or straw, you invite the biology to do the work for you. Earthworms migrate upward, and their casts contain 66% more mycorrhizal spores than the surrounding earth. You aren't fixing bad soil. You are building a new civilization on top of it. During World War II, families used this to turn rubble-filled vacant lots into lush gardens within a single season. An Italian study showed that this method can increase soil organic carbon from 1.2% to 6.8%, a five-fold transformation that industrial fertilizers could never achieve. Hack number 12. The relay protocol. Succession planting. The final secret of the archive isn't about chemistry, it's about time. Most gardeners plant once in the spring and harvest once in the fall. The Victory gardeners practiced relay planting, sowing the same crop every 2 weeks. This ensures a continuous harvest, doubling the total yield without adding a single square foot of space. It treats time as a finite resource. By interplanting fast-growing radishes between slow-maturing tomatoes, you utilize every second of sunlight. Victory manuals taught that a garden's most expensive resource isn't water, it's an empty bed. Through the use of simple cold frames and meticulous timing, families harvested food 9 months out of the year. It is the difference between a hobby and a life support system. 12 methods. 12 keys to a vault that was never supposed to be reopened. These are not merely hacks. They are the biological infrastructure of freedom. None of them require a purchase. None of them can be patented. The industry worth $200 billion prayed you would never find this archive. They needed you to forget that a nation once fed itself for free, but the ground beneath your feet has been waiting for 80 years for you to remember. FDR once warned, "A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself." There are two kinds of knowledge, that which makes you dependent, and that which sets you free. You now possess the second kind. This week, choose one, save one seed, layer one bed, reclaim one handful of forest dirt,